Okay, it's June 14th, 2021. Welcome to a regular meeting of the Saratoga Springs Public Library Board of Trustees. The first order of business is the approval of the meeting minutes. There's only one thing I had a question about. On page 2, where it's under budget vote and trustee election. I'm sorry, under senior account clerk.
Yes.
It says Denise is going to start on May 17th. Is that inconsistent with what's on the next page that under Tara Chabra's report, where it says she's a senior account clerk retroactive effective to May 2nd?
So it may seem that way, but what the situation was that Denise was actually doing the work. And so the transition on May 17th was the day that she actually moved and permanently moved her desk from the circulation department to the administration department. But she had been doing the work even prior to the official appointment date.
Okay, so that's not inaccurate then.
Correct. Right.
Anybody have any other questions about this? The minutes, I guess we're looking at the minutes of regular minutes, the special meeting minutes, and executive session. If there's no questions, I would entertain a motion to accept these minutes, all three.
I move to accept the meeting minutes.
I second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we're into the financial reports. We have to approve the May prepaid checks. 68903, 68904, and the June warrants 68907 to 68988. The amounts are reflected in the agenda. Does anybody have any questions about the expenditures? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the prepaid warrants and checks.
A second.
All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the expenditures are approved. Under financial reports, we have the May prepaids and the June warrant summary sheet, which we just went through. And then we have the budget report.
And I don't know if there are questions about the budget report, but to point out one tiny change, the first column, the month-to-date column on the copy that was originally distributed to the board said April. The numbers are all correct. It just was mislabeled. So as presented here, it's correct that it's the May report.
Are you comfortable without that you don't need to do any reallocations?
I am at this point of the year. We've got one more month to go. I don't know if Eric has an opinion about that at this point.
I think I think it is possibly professional services but if it did, it would, I don't imagine it going over by very much, but that's kind of the unknown one so far.
Right. That's and that has seemed to be the case all year this year with just with ongoing expenses there.
I think every company's having similar.
Yes.
It's a kind of a trend.
Yeah.
And there's the income report.
And as far as that goes, I don't believe there was anything at all unusual. There was a refund from Staples, and I think that was probably for returned items.
Anybody have any questions about? If not, I would entertain a motion to accept the financial reports. The prepaids, the budget report, and the income report. And the May prepaids and the June warrant summary sheet, budget report, and the income report.
I move to approve the financial reports.
I second.
All in
Oh, sorry,
favor?
go for it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those are approved.
And could we just, for Sue, for the record, get the motion in the second particular?
Who seconded?
I
Manita
seconded
did?
it. It was Manika, but
Oh.
if somebody else did it, and I thought somebody else did, so I'm happy to, cede it to that person too.
And
I
I
I
made
did,
the
but it doesn't matter.
Okay.
and
I mean,
I
it's-
made the
Done.
motion.
It's a little bit, I know it's always a trouble in this format that, but, so we got that. So it was, Manita was the second. Is that-
And I made the motion, Ike.
Okay, thank you, Katie.
We'll probably be doing this in person next time, won't we?
I believe it's a real possibility. The exception to the open meeting law was just extended again through pretty much the remainder of this month. We'll see. It's likely to be, I would say, at this point, extended through July. But I don't know. It's hard to predict at the moment. But I think we may want to be planning on having a July meeting in person.
Yeah. I mean, we have the space. Okay, the next up is the president's report. I don't have anything in particular to report. Do we have any public comment? I'm going to say no.
No.
And correspondence and communication, a message to Katie Capelli.
I got a very nice message from somebody named Susie, who lives in Scotia, who wanted everyone to know how thrilled she is that you opened the Henry Street entrance and that she loves the community boards there and picking up the magazines and the brochures. And she drives up from Scotia to enjoy our library and visit the friends. And she wanted me to share it with all the staff and all of the board. So that was fun to come home to on my answering machine one day.
Oh,
Nice.
that's sweet.
Yeah.
It's very nice. There being nothing else, I guess we're on to the director's report.
So I don't know if there were questions about it, sort of short and sweet this month since we just had this special meeting a week or so ago. But our reopening status, I just wanted to give you a little bit of an update that as of today, we have reached 10 consecutive days of a 14-day average test positivity rate of 1% or less in Saratoga County. So we've moved from phase 5 to phase 6 of our 8-phase reopening plan. So we're inching ever closer. Yeah, and of course, as we go, I mean, things really do seem to be progressing in a positive way, which in one way is a little bit worrisome because it means that people, might be letting their guards down a little bit. So I think vigilance is still called for, but I am happy to say that there's forward momentum here. In the midst of all of this reopening, the thing that is continuing to be a source of maybe confusion and consternation with people is really some inconsistencies everywhere with masking requirements that are kind of exacerbated by some announcements from the CDC and from the State Health Department, which are not always consistent with each other, and which seem to kind of come out of the blue sometimes. But we're rolling with the punches, and where we are now is that we are still, for the time being, requiring that all staff who are in the building, regardless of their vaccination status, whenever they're in a public area or a shared space, to mask up. And the same is true with any unvaccinated member of the public. And we're policing that really by the honor system. So that would include any adult who's not vaccinated and children still at this point who are unvaccinated. The way the rules are now, it seems as if any adult or any child who is either working or attending a program that we happen to be presenting outside is allowed to remove their mask if they choose to, while they're outside. So that's sort of where we are in the great scheme of mask things. But I think it's all definite positive momentum. And so we're hoping to possibly after Labor Day, if we can get staffed up. I had a meeting with with some fellow directors of our peer libraries, and we all seem to be aiming for a post-Labor Day return to our full operating hours. And I think the challenge for everybody, not just libraries, but for everybody everywhere who hires people to get staffed up in order to be able to provide the level of service that we'd like to. But that's where we are with that. And then, as you know, at our last meeting, we approved a strategic plan. And so in the coming weeks, we'll be working with our consultants, and internally they provided some templates for, so we've got the high level conceptual plan. We'll get down to the nitty gritty with at least for the first half, if not the whole of the coming fiscal year starting July 1 for the actual what we will do in service of that.
Okay.
Any
Anybody have
questions
any
about
questions
any of
for
that? Pardon me?
I was gonna say, does anybody have any questions for Ike? Okay, there being none, we're going to talk about the social media.
I don't think we need to unless there are questions. And we will work on, with the new plan approved, as we get into the new fiscal year, you will see some changes in the way department reports are presented in terms of reporting on the new priorities that are set in that strategic plan. So the reporting may look a little bit different as we go forward.
And you anticipate those will be harder to measure, right?
They will be, so you may see more narrative than we have seen over the last few years with numbers. So.
Okay.
Can we move on to department reports?
Circulation, yeah, I think we can move. Circulation, Jen Ferris.
Hi. One thing I didn't add to the report that I just announced to staff today is that starting on July 1st, we are going to have a new digital collection. It's called Hoopla, and Saratoga Springs School District residents, our Ex Libris patrons, outreach, and staff, board, and volunteers will have access to a new movie, music, book, audiobook, and comic book streaming service. So we're excited to launch that for everybody. That's it. That's all I've got. If you have any questions.
That's great news. That sounds
Yes, it's exciting.
And circulation, is he picking up at all? I'm sorry.
It's steady.
Okay.
It's not as erratic. No, I wouldn't say it's picking up, but we do see new people come in. And I believe I overheard that over the weekend we had a lot of new library cards. So that's starting to pick up. So we'll see what happens this coming month, where things are going.
Thank you, Jen.
You're welcome.
And it does seem a daily occurrence that we get multiple people coming in to renew their library cards. So over the course of the last year or so, they've gotten their notices that their cards are expiring. And so we do that many times a day, it seems.
I was excited to see that the van is going to get some activity coming up too. That's exciting.
Yeah, we should be on the road, weather permitting, next Wednesday at the Greenfield Community Center during their food pantry hours.
Nice.
Laura? Is Laura here? I thought I saw her.
Laura is here. She might be muted. Oh, she's muted. You're muted, Laura.
I always forget. As you can see, we have a lot of nice pictures to go along with our program. So if you have any questions, let me know. That's me with the conceptual llama. Gina did a wonderful job of making the llamas. If you see that video online, of making the llamas look like they were actually peering over my shoulder, reading a book. It's really cool because we missed having the llamas this time. And we even had a parenting program which had actual people by Zoom. And I was really surprised at this. I'd like to mention it, that Marielle, who's a new presenter, she lives in Clifton Park. She said that she felt that parenting programs were more successful at 8 o'clock at night when all the kiddies were in bed. And I thought, really? You got to be kidding. I'm barely awake then. But apparently she was right. So I'll keep on and see. And does anybody have any other questions?
I wanted to just say that Ike sent us your TikTok video.
Oh, yeah, that was fun to do.
And it was so much fun to watch. So thank you. Thank you for doing
Yeah,
it.
Heather did a great job putting that together. And she's actually a dancer. You can kind of tell. The rest of us were kind of faking it, but she led us. She made us. It worked out good.
It was jolly and fun.
Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Jen, oh?
Oh, speaking of TikTok videos, I made my first one today. And it's called How to Say My Name, because a lot of people don't seem to know that piece, but just unrelated.
Is Jen O here?
Yes, hi. I don't have a whole lot to report other than, the ongoing programs. I did want to point out just a couple that were really well received by the public. And one was the Historic Bridges program that Chris offered along with the Adirondack Architectural Heritage. And we actually had over 100 people sign up. We had a waiting list and 76 showed up, which for a Zoom program is really astounding. So that was something that was really in high demand and a great partnership there. The other thing that I wanted to just point out was Caitlin's program, which was One Foot in Power, One Foot in Slavery, where she interviewed and spoke with Heather's father, actually, who had done some really interesting genealogical research on the family's history. And it was a really fascinating program to watch. There was enough interest that it was not going to be recorded, but then was, because there was so much interest in it for folks that couldn't be there. So that was great as well. And lastly, I actually wanted to mention Lori's program again, which was the Lattimore Circle, and got a really nice write-up in the Post-Star. And she also had some great attendance for that. And that was something that she was really looking forward to and worked really hard on. So those are the highlights for the month. I don't have anything else to report unless there's any other questions.
I know Lori's not here, but that's pretty cool. We got a 1774 deed with maps and sections.
Yes, I got to see it today, actually, while I was in the Saratoga room with her, and you can see the wax seals, and it's pretty amazing to be that close to something of that historic value.
If I walk in there, am I going to be able to see it?
If you ask nicely, no. No, Lori can show it to you. It's in a drawer, so it's well protected and she can pull it out. And yeah, it's really quite something to look at.
That's neat. Okay, thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
Mr. Taras?
Yes. Overall, the biggest thing is still trying to find, some more green efficiencies. And, one of the nice things, I was spurred on a little bit about the sad cost increases with the electrical. So I saw a small opportunity, and we signed a 2-year additional contract for the natural gas at an 8% decrease. That won't start until not this August, the following August. But just yesterday, it hit a new high since October of last year, which was the start of the heating season. It's just really working with our suppliers and knowing the history. We did extremely well, and this is a very, very stable company, so positions us for the future, on the natural gas side, so we don't have such a dramatic change in cost structures, even if we were saving very large numbers, percentage numbers. Other than that, we just keep trying to do the good work and making sure that we're looking at the big picture and working together.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Tara?
Hello. So as Ike alluded to the staffing challenges, we're experiencing that firsthand. Some of the unanticipated things that we're running into are the delays in actually having background checks complete because different jurisdictions are not staffed up in light of COVID restrictions. So for people that are applying and being offered employment but have lived out of area or in other jurisdictions, we're experiencing some unfortunate delays with getting those cleared. And those are required under our civil service jurisdiction before someone can begin employment. So that's one of the unanticipated things that we're running into. We are fortunate, however, to have an eminently qualified individual starting with us as of tomorrow, Thomas Clark, as a part-time building maintenance worker. So one of the things that I'm requesting is for the request to appoint Thomas and ahead of time this time. So he starts tomorrow, June 15th.
Okay, all right. I will make a motion to appoint Thomas Clark, part-time building maintenance worker, effective June 15th, 2021. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Clark is appointed.
Great. We're moving forward too with the appointment, hopefully, of a youth services department head. That position has been vacant, as you know, since last March. So we do have an eligible list. We have canvassed it. We do have a half dozen folks who've indicated an interest. And now we're at the point of trying to firm up availability of our internal panelists who have been selected to be part of the interview process before those interviews can be scheduled and hopefully before July 1st. We wrapped up open enrollment online 2 weeks in May. That went smoothly and efficiently, and our employees are going to enjoy even a slight, most of them anyway, a slight decrease in their premiums and payroll deductions, which is really unheard of. So we're going to enjoy that. We're going to take it when we can. So starting July 1st, those changes will take effect. Performance feedback continues to move along. And again, I include a link there, which you can see some of the feedback to the feedback. Just constantly looking for employees to provide their input on how the process and the tool have worked for them and continuing to make changes to suit everyone. Professional development, and again, I apologize that this report was provided to you later than expected, but I was able to squeeze in retroactively a little bit here that came to my inbox just as I was getting ready to go on vacation. And this was a message from the gentleman at Mental Health Association of New York State. And as you might recall, I've partnered with them several times over the last, well, probably 5 or 6 years in offering mental health first aid training to our staff and to members of the general public. And they have a virtual version. And again, this is being offered to staff partly in response to a survey that I conducted a few months ago asking about their interest in various professional development options being offered by our employee assistance program. And there was a lot of interest in mental health. So while our employee assistance program does have some offerings, I thought this was a great opportunity to reach back out to M. Haney's. And they are having a fantastic feedback to, and it's not just our staff, but members of the public, but it's being promoted as a kind of quasi-library co-hosted program. So they had tremendous attendance at the first session on June 4th, and the next session, it's a duplicate session. A new batch of folks are signed up for the end of the month. Probably about a dozen of our own employees have signed up. So I think it's a really timely and very relevant and welcome thing, given the state of everything. So I just wanted to share that good news. And again, I added the last part here, I added when I realized that you hadn't received this report in time, and based on the fact that Ike had in a separate document provided you with information on proposed changes to our paid holidays, the holidays that the library recognizes and typically pays only its full-time employees for. So I will let that separate document speak for itself. But again, this comes after over a year really or nearly a year, I should say, of discussion internally, as well as in the wider world of observing different holidays, and specifically Juneteenth, which is coming up on June 19th. I know that last month, the trustees approved library recognition of that holiday in 2021 by having the library be closed and the holiday be a paid one for full-time employees, and those are about 35 of us. But of our total staff number, there are quite a bit of part-time folks that up to now have not been paid for holidays. And again, many people are scheduled to work on those days regularly. So as part of rethinking some of our holidays, part of my request is to consider a prorated benefit to our valued part-time associates. So again, I will let that document speak for itself. I don't know if it follows here. I can't see what comes next, but I just wanted to put that out there and thank you in advance for your consideration of that. Again, we've talked about it internally, but prior to my going on vacation last week, we hadn't really come to any consensus that I'm aware of. So I'm not really sure what my fellow managers think about this. But I'm just letting you know that it was included in your packet. So I threw it into my report last night.
All right. Yeah. And thank you, Tara. And I can follow up a little bit on that. It is so a couple things. There are multiple things going on in the document that Tara created that is included here about the handbook updates. So one is about a potential change to one of our holidays that we already observe, which is Columbus Day, which is observed nationally and by the state, potentially to change that to Indigenous Peoples Day, or to change our observation. That might be a bigger discussion, and that may, because I know there are times when we like to follow what the state does in terms of holidays that it recognizes. So that's a different discussion apart from the other discussion about having a prorated benefit for paid holidays for part-time staff. So I think that there are really two individual issues there. And I feel like there might be more both internal and maybe external discussion that needs to happen about the Columbus Day, Indigenous Peoples Day issue. I think that we are all, and internally we probably are all agreed about that change, but we haven't really settled on anything yet. But I think where I believe that we have sort of universal agreement is about the change to having a prorated benefit for holidays for part-time staff. And actually, let me just scroll down there so you can see, so I'm not. So it's the green part here that would be the addition to, and Tara, I didn't know if you wanted to say anything more about that, or.
Only that if I had included it in my report, there would be a huge watermark of draft.
With draft, right, et cetera.
So this was a document that was shared with the management team last month for our internal discussion. But again, what I've basically indicated is the proposed swapping out Columbus for Indigenous Peoples Day, dropping mention of the number of paid holidays since that has changed and might change again. Indicating on there eligibility for a prorated benefit for part-time employees. And again, my calculation comes about as a result of trying to calculate how much of our 1,820 hour full-time hours is right now being used with our 12 holidays, and then prorating that for, it's like roughly 4.5% of our hours. So if we were to provide a similar type of benefit to our part-time employees, and again, doing it in the same way that we're crediting them with earning their part-time vacation benefit, it will be credited twice per year on or around January 1st, on or around July 1st. So 2 equal installments of 2.25%. And again, the math is a little bit mind-bending, but I do it already for our vacation crediting. So it would be a similar type of process in accumulating and crediting. And yeah, so basically anything new is in green, anything to be dropped or changed is in red or red strike through. I don't know if there's a second page there. I can't see it and I don't recall. Oh yeah.
And it's just a little explanation, I think.
The nota bene of the additional explanation about how we came apart. And one part that hasn't been mentioned here, and this was just, again, my proposal, and we didn't necessarily discuss this as a team or come to any consensus that I'm aware of, but it just about reworking some of the additional language elsewhere in the handbook. And then separate from this, I had also proposed that certain of these holidays, again, the library is open on certain holidays and closed on others. The holidays where we are open, Martin Luther King, in any other year that doesn't fall on Juneteenth, I don't know how we're going to handle that going forward, but if it were to be Columbus Day, Indigenous Peoples Day, we're typically, again, open on that day. Depending on how the library decides in the future to recognize these holidays, if we continue to do as we have been, or if we perhaps rethink that and maybe have them be a regular day, regular hours and fully staffed as normal, with those days being more geared toward perhaps professional development around the importance of these holidays, that we then swap out holiday pay for floating holiday. But that's an additional consideration that, again, that's what that language in that blue section refers to for anyone who was not clear on what I was trying to get at with that.
What do they, so you're saying they would accrue at 2.25%?
Yep. So right now I was trying to make it, I was trying to look at our current practice of how we credit vacation hours for part-time employees. And this, however we came up with this bar in the past, I'm not really sure. But right now, for any part-time employee who works at least 175 hours in a 6-month period prior to leading up to January 1st and July 1st, we are taking 3% of those total hours worked, and we're giving them the equivalent hours in what we're calling vacation time for part-time employees, or vacation credit. The terms are used interchangeably. So I was trying to apply a similar math, similar timing, similar bar, similar practice to the prorated holiday time for employees, which would, again, not be necessarily a separate bank of time, but would be added to this vacation credit bank. And because of compensation issues related to this, it would be handled in the same way that this accrued vacation time is for part-time employees, in that it could essentially be a general paid time off that they could use for any eligible absence, preferably requested in advance. And for anyone who hasn't used those hours within the calendar year, they get automatically cashed out in time for the end of the calendar year. Those hours don't roll forward. So I was just trying to make this as similar to their vacation accrual as possible.
And do we know the, Ike, the budget piece of this, the pay, the additional cost to payroll?
We don't, my feeling is that it probably would be negligible just based on the number of days that we're looking at and the percentage that we're looking at. But at this point, I don't know that we're ready to take action on this, but I just wanted to make you aware of it, the discussion that's happening. I really, and it, as Tara mentioned, it is in relation to this review of policies and procedures and practices that we've said that we would undertake in relation to our, our new emphasis on equity, diversity, and inclusion, both internally and externally. Did that answer your question? I don't know if that answered your question.
So I mean, I think we're trying to get a grasp of what the fiscal implications are. You think they're negligible, or is there some kind of concrete way for us to think about it?
There may be, I think what we could do is go back and look at the number of part-time hours that people worked in the last fiscal year and try to come up with the percentage to give you a ballpark. There's no way that we could give you an exact number.
Obviously, but maybe if there was some kind of hypothetical person, that we could just kind of and maybe draw some conclusions from that about what the fiscal implications are.
Yeah, I mean, it would be similar to, as Tara has mentioned, we have a couple of years ago, we did implement a similar kind of formula for part-time people to get a paid time off benefit that we bank as vacation time. And that time, we've budgeted for, but it has seemed to have been relatively easily absorbed because the percentage that we're looking at is small.
It seems like an equitable thing to do. I think we just might need some kind of guesstimate.
Absolutely, and we'll do that. And like I said, we just wanted to get it before you to let you know what some of the thinking internally is.
And in terms of changing the name, I guess that's something else you're just going to pursue. I mean, I'm getting the feeling that all around us, we're changing the name of Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day.
Well, it's very interesting. It is a discussion that we've been having and that's been happening nationally. An interesting thing did just happen in New York City, where the school district initially released a calendar that they decided that they would recognize Indigenous Peoples Day instead of Columbus Day. There was some backlash from that. And now what they've done is that they're doing a dual recognition on that day of Columbus Day and Indigenous Peoples Day. And the governor has come out and said that the state at this point will not make a change from Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day as a holiday. So there's much ongoing discussion about this, which is why I think, it probably merits a little bit more discussion internally, but I think that there is probably a general, I don't know if it's 100%, but a general consensus, at least internally, that it is a move that we would be in favor of from the staff and administration at the library.
So do you want to think about this some more before we vote on it internally? Is there anything you want to think of? Is there a proposal to do something like the city with a hybrid?
To like New York City? I'm not sure that New York City wants to be our model, by New York City schools, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like maybe the holiday change might be a thing that requires more discussion. And I feel like you all feel like you might want a little bit more data about the other change, about the some holiday benefit or for part-time people. And honestly, of the two things, the thing that I'm most comfortable with you taking action on today is that change to provide some form of paid holiday time for part-time folks.
But that's the one that we just said we wanted some
But
more.
that's the one that you said, right, so it sounds like maybe all the way around, we might be a little premature in taking any action at this point.
Yeah. The indigenous peoples thing, I mean, personally, I think that's a great idea, but maybe you want to make sure you got all the angles covered.
I mean, I would be perfectly happy if you all felt like you wanted to take an action to make that change today.
I'm comfortable with that. Is everybody else comfortable with that?
I'm comfortable with that, but do you feel like you need more time with that, Ike?
I don't. My only hesitation is on your behalf about what, I mean, if you all as a board have a degree of comfort with that, I am happy for that.
I'm definitely comfortable with that.
Is there anybody who wants to put it off, or is there anybody who would be against approving it now and wants more time? If not, I think then we would be in a position to approve that change.
May I have your attention, please? The library will be closed.
And I'll second that motion. Did you make the motion, Frank?
I don't think I did, but I will. I'll move that we change the name of Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day.
And I will second that.
All in favor?
Yay! Sorry.
Was that a cheer, Manita? That's it.
Aye.
I
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I think that's great. All right, I think we went a little out of order.
Yes, we did. I mean, that was originally in Tara's report, and then it got separated. So, all righty. So now we are back to.
We did reopening.
We did the reopening, the budget vote and trustee election. It's happening on Thursday. We'll have a little bit more information about that in about an hour and change at the budget hearing. And strategic planning, I believe we've already covered. So I don't know that there's anything there else in old business we need to go over.
Okay, so new business is the memorandum of understanding.
And this is just by way of information. I think it's pretty straightforward at this point. There is no concrete, this is really an MOU about the concept of working together with the city on this grant funding that they've gotten to improve the lighting and Wi-Fi in the library parking lot. There's nothing in this agreement that talks about specifics. It's just an agreement in principle.
If it is a little warmer, that would help. But,
I'm sorry.
What was, I think that was Laura, were you?
oh, sorry. Yeah.
All right, so you didn't have a question. All right.
So do we need to approve this memorandum of understanding?
I don't know that it's required, but I think it would be good just so that you are all aware that we're entering into this agreement with them or this understanding.
Can I ask a question about it?
Certainly, yes. Yeah.
What happens with any, I don't know that liability is the word I want, in offering Wi-Fi in the library parking lot, which I think is a great idea, but we then are basically setting ourselves up that people are going to come and hang out in the parking lot to use the Wi-Fi.
Potentially, but honestly, what it does, people already do that. And what it does is just extends it a little bit farther. And so
Okay.
it makes it a little bit more available so I don't know that we incur any additional, and it really isn't, it's actually the library's Wi-Fi just being extended. So it's not an additional Wi-Fi service, it just extends the.
And so it doesn't put us in a situation with the city, with the parking lot and the library Wi-Fi and that whole thing that's still a little unclear to me about whose responsibility the parking lot kind of, you know
No.
what I mean?
I do know what you mean. And honestly, I don't know that it's, you know, we have had some conversations about that. Is it going to attract people to stay longer in the parking lot? Honestly, we don't anticipate that that's going to be an issue. Because
Right.
even if they're parking there, there's still, you know, when it is enforced, there still is a time.
Yeah, and I wondered also just the piece of the fact that then in entering that relationship more deeply with the city, does it have any impact on the fact that we want to have the conversations we want to have with them about freeing up the parking lot from the city?
You know what, I don't believe that it does, Katie. I understand the concern. I don't believe that it does, simply because the agreement at this point is support from the city through a grant that they've got for a pilot project to buy some upgraded equipment for the light, for the
Okay.
streetlights.
Great.
That's the essence of the agreement, or of the project even.
And this doesn't talk about the thornier issue of cameras.
It doesn't, and that is all ironed out late. And so this is like the opening salvo here. There will be another agreement about, you know, the nitty gritty about the project coming later, but this just gets the ball rolling in terms of entering an agreement on the project without really the specifics of the project included here. And it honestly is an agreement that the city needs from us in order for the grant funding to be released, is what my understanding.
So you want board action to approve this now?
But please,
I move to approve the memorandum of understanding.
I second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it's approved.
thank you. And then the handbook we've talked about, and I think it's been decided that, you know, the executive session was a placeholder there that's not required. Is that the case, Frank?
Yeah, we don't need to have to go into executive session. And that's also, and then the other thing, is it 7, Ike?
That is correct, yes.
Do we have a link for that?
It's
Do I
the
have a link
same,
for that?
it's the same one.
Oh, it's the same one. Okay.
Yep.
All right, then we can adjourn. Right?
All right, yes, we can.
All right. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks.
Or see you in an hour, I guess.
Yeah.
7.